Now that Cantarella's been out for a couple of days, I have had some time to finalize my thoughts on her. And in this video, I'm going to be telling you how good Cantarella is actually. First of all, starting with her performance in the Tower of Adversity, then going on in her performance in Whimpering Wastes, and then finally, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons I mentioned in my pros and cons video, and if I was actually right about them or not. So first of all, her performance in Tower. The best way that I can describe Cantarella's performance in the Tower of Adversity is fine. There's not much wrong with Cantarella when it comes to just pure performance. However, the issues with Cantarella start arising when you start thinking, wait, why am I using Cantarella actually? You see, Cantarella has kind of an identity crisis, because there's no character that she really synergizes with. A lot of people said in my comment section on previous videos that this is not very unlike Zhezha. But the issue with Zhezha on her release is that she did in fact have a team where she was the best in slot. Sure, it might have been only one team where she's best in slot, but it's definitely a lot more than what Cantarella has right now because she has no teams where she's the best. You see, Cantarella, when used with any of the characters she synergizes with, which, to be fair, are quite a lot of them, will clear fine. But this is also partially due to the characters she synergizes with being inherently good. She synergizes with Jinshi when it comes to skill damage, as well as a little bit of Chongli and Carlotta, and then for the Havoc side, she plays with Havoc Rover, Camellia, or Donjin. And all of these teams are just fine, there's not much wrong with them. But why are you ever using Cantarella in these teams? Sure, for Jinshi you can make the argument that you don't have a Zhezha, but Zhezha is not the only character that you can play with Jinshi. There's Yinlin, there's Mortefi, there's Yuenwu, and that's only when talking about coordinated attack characters, because you can also play her with characters like Brant or even Chang Li. All of these teams are good with Jinshi, and considering the fact that Cantarella doesn't really have the smooth rotations nor the damage, you kind of are left wondering, okay, why am I using Cantarella in this scenario? And the answer is, either because you don't have anyone else, or because you like her. There's not really any scenario in which you want to use Cantarella other than those two. It's really just that simple. Cantarella is a big identity crisis character. But let's be honest here, she is going to get a DPS to synergize with in the future. There's no doubt in my mind that this is going to happen. But the question is, when is it going to happen? Because I honestly don't know. She doesn't have any particular upsides or downsides when it comes to Tower. Sure, she can slow down enemies, but you'll be canceling that slowdown very soon when Jolt triggers. So that's not really something that you can use in Cantarella's favor. Really, she is just a very average character. There's not much wrong with her, not much right with her. Moving on to Whimpering Wastes, which is just more of the same to be honest. There really isn't much going on when we talk about Cantarella in this game mode either. And I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but yet again, it is because, well, she kinda doesn't have a best in slot teammate. And, well, that kinda hurts her. Why would you ever pull for Cantarella, to be honest? She doesn't really have any teammate she's the best with, so she's left as just the alternative character. I will say one of the positives that Cantarella does have in Whimpering Wastes is that Camellia is a lot better of a character in this game mode, and Camellia is one of the characters that people seem to be using her with more. I don't really know why, considering the fact that Camellia is the character that has the best alternatives to Cantarella, but it is something that's being played a lot. And because Camellia is one of the strongest characters within Whimpering Wastes, having that synergy with Camellia is something that's pretty commendable. But, yet again, Sanhua, Rocha, and Donjin are all there and they are better than Cantarella. So why are we playing Cantarella here again? And moving on to the other characters she has synergies with, well, there's Jinshi. You can run her with Jinshi, but Jinshi in Whimpering Wastes isn't exactly a stellar character. And even then, the best teams with Jinshi in Whimpering Wastes are the teams that don't really care about the amount of stacks that Jinshi has, and more so focuses on pushing out more damage outside of Jinshi herself. For example, Brant Jinshi or Changli Jinshi. So Cantarella being a stack generator that does less damage than Zhezha doesn't exactly do her any favors. But what you can do is run Cantarella with Jinchi and Jeja, and then have Cantarella be on Rejuvenating Glow. That means you're constantly cycling through your coordinate attack characters and getting into Jinchi a lot more, meaning that you're doing more damage consistently, which is a pretty big positive when it comes to Whimpering Wastes. But again, it's a pretty niche use case. I can't really say that getting Cantarella for Whimpering Wastes is going to be doing you much good. It really is just a matter of you like Cantarella, so you pulled her. And that's just a really big theme with this character. There is really not that many reasons to pull for Cantarella unless you like her. And I'm well aware that I'm sounding like a broken record when I'm saying this. But moving on to the points I made in my pros and cons video, and how right I ended up being about them, or how wrong I ended up being. Both are possible. First of all, the fact that she frees up Jeja. And while this is technically true, it's not that big of a positive here really, because I was mainly talking about Jinchi teams. And let's be honest here, Jinchi has plenty of alternatives, which I mentioned before. You're able to run Mortefi, you're able to run Yuanwu, you're able to run Yinlin, you can run Brant, you can run Cheng-Li. There's just so many characters that you can run with your Jinchi that the fact that Cantarella frees up Jeja isn't really as big of a positive as it would seem. It really is a shame. Next up, there is Cantarella's healing, which I did say in the video, it's not really going to be that relevant for players like me, but for some people it is going to be very nice. And I'm gonna be honest here, I stand true to it. I still think that while Cantarella's healing is not really that useful for a lot of people, it is also very useful for a lot of other people, especially when you consider Donjin mains who want to use Cantarella with her, as well as the people playing Whimpering Wastes with that Jinchi and Jeja team with her. So the fact that she is capable of healing is a pretty nice bonus, although I wouldn't exactly say it's that useful or a reason to get the character in general. I also mentioned Cantarella's future potential, which I unfortunately can't really talk about right now, because we aren't in that future yet. We haven't quite seen where Cantarella is going to go from here, so there's very little to comment on when talking about future potential. But I still believe that Cantarella is going to become a lot better in the future when we get a DPS that actually synergizes perfectly with her. Then moving on to the cons I mentioned. And yeah, she does not really have a best-in-slot team, which I still stand by. There is no team in which using Cantarella is the optimal choice. And as I've been saying the entire video, yeah, that just remains true, and it's a very big factor in why I believe Cantarella to be a very low-value character. Next up, her energy regen needs are indeed about as bad as I predicted, needing to run more than 140 energy regen on a hypercarry-based team. A lot of people in the comments did point out that Brant's requirement is even higher, which, yes, makes sense. But the thing with Brant is that he's built around having a large amount of ER, whereas Cantarella is losing damage the more ER she needs to build. While it's not fully a negative, because it just means that if your echoes are insane, your Cantarella does have the potential to outdamage your Jeja, but it still doesn't account for the fact that your DPS is also getting less energy because Cantarella's energy regeneration is just lower. So this is still a pretty big con in my opinion, and I think I did end up being right. And then finally, I mentioned how Cantarella really relies on her signature weapon. And I think I did overblow this a little bit because she is a sub-DPS character. However, because she is a sub-DPS character that doesn't really have a real best-in-slot team, it means that you're investing a lot into a character who isn't going to end up really giving you that much performance. So it is just another layer on top of the lasagna known as Cantarella's negative pull value. So it's not really worth an entire point, but it is a very big consideration. Especially for the people trying to play her as a main DPS, which, yes, people are in fact doing that, you're gonna want to pull her signature. But what do you think of Cantarella? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description. I'm pretty active in there, so I'll be able to answer any question you may have. Also, every Saturday I'm streaming live here on YouTube and on Twitch at 2 PM Central European Summer Time. But that'll be it from me. Peace.